The story we're tracking, music mogul Sean Diddy Combs on suicide watch at Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center after two judges denied his request for bail.
Or witnesses. So there's a lot of names that are going to come up here. Christina Coram.
But prosecutors in both of these cases have said that the defendants were obsessed and that they used their wealth.
Diddy's slide has taken a dark turn. He is being held in the same detention facility as Jeffrey Epstein, and there are now whispers circulating that he may contemplate doing the same. To make matters worse, his right-hand lady is now involved. We're hearing that Diddy is targeting his back while he is behind bars here at the Metropolitan Detention Center. Diddy plans to do the unthinkable. Diddy is currently being held at the Metropolitan Detention Center in New York while he waits for trial. These are the same walls that house trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell, festival fraudster Billy McFarland, and rapper R. Kelly. However, what no one expected was to read headlines about him being placed in special care. Christina Coram is being referred to as his Ghislaine Maxwell, and the feds are coming for both of them. As a result, Diddy's empire is collapsing quickly. Yes, you did indeed hear that. People have a lot more access to mental health services now that Diddy is housed in a different cell from the other inmates and has many visits from the mental health specialist each day. Diddy has many concerns, such as whether he is truly going down that path and thinking of doing the unthinkable out of guilt, or because he can't handle the fall from grace. However, his attorney Mark says there's no need for the public to become alarmed because after spending 6 hours with Diddy in the detention facility, he repeatedly assured everyone that his client was strong, healthy, confident, and focused on his defense. As for the special watch, Mark says it's just part of the process since Diddy's a high-profile criminal. As far as he knows, Diddy doesn't plan to do the unthinkable or hurt himself in any way, but some folks find that hard to believe since MDC is practically hell on earth. The prison holds more than 1,600 inmates, but that's not what has people talking. Over the years, MDC has gained a reputation for being notoriously dangerous and understaffed. The conditions inside the Metropolitan Detention Center MDC have been the subject of significant controversy over the years. Numerous headlines have highlighted the dire circumstances faced by inmates, with repeated complaints about a lack of medical care, unsanitary conditions, and unsafe environments. One of the most notable incidents occurred in January 2019, when MDC found itself in the national spotlight due to a power outage. The entire facility was plunged into darkness for about a week, leaving inmates to endure extremely harsh conditions without basic amenities. The power outage revealed the prison's infrastructure flaws and the facility's indifference to inmates. During this period, prisoners were trapped in their cells with non-functioning toilets, creating a hazardous and unsanitary environment. For days, inmates were forced to deal with overflowing toilets, no running water, and the stench that accompanied the lack of proper sewage disposal. The facility's inability to provide adequate lighting or temperature control during the blackout further exacerbated the already precarious living conditions. In the wake of this incident, a class action lawsuit was filed on behalf of the prisoners who endured these inhumane conditions. The legal action sought justice for the men and women forced to live in darkness, deprived of basic human rights. The lawsuit argued that the MDC had violated the constitutional rights of its inmates by subjecting them to cruel and unusual punishment. After prolonged legal proceedings, the Bureau of Prisons eventually agreed to settle the case, paying out $10 million in compensation to the affected inmates. While this payout provided some form of redress, it did little to assure the public that conditions inside the facility had significantly improved. There is ongoing concern about whether the systemic issues that led to the power outage and the subsequent mistreatment of inmates have truly been addressed. The MDC's notoriety extends beyond the 2019 power outage, and now it's back in the headlines due to the incarceration of high-profile figures such as Sean Diddy Combs. Despite his celebrity status, Diddy is reportedly not receiving any special treatment within the facility. Former lawyer for President Donald Trump, Michael Cohen, who served time in the same prison, provided a grim description of what Diddy is likely experiencing. According to Cohen, Diddy is waking up on a steel bed with a thin mattress only about an inch or two thick and no pillow, confined to an 8x10 cell that is far from luxurious. Cohen emphasized the appalling conditions by stating, "I can assure you it is disgusting." The lack of comfort is not the only challenge Diddy faces. As Cohen pointed out, during the early stages of incarceration, access to books or any form of mental stimulation is severely limited. This isolation can be mentally taxing, especially for someone used to a life of luxury and constant stimulation. Cohen's familiarity with the prison environment, having served time there in 2020, offers a glimpse into the harsh realities awaiting anyone behind those walls, regardless of their fame or fortune. However, what may be most concerning to Diddy's legal team is the rampant violence within the prison. According to accounts from former and current inmates, MDC has a reputation for being an exceptionally dangerous place. One inmate, identified only as Eli, provided a chilling account of the violence he witnessed during his time there. He recounted an incident where a fellow inmate was stabbed in the eye with a makeshift knife. These homemade weapons, sometimes crafted from materials torn from the steel walls, are reportedly common in the facility. Eli, who was experiencing jail for the first time, expressed shock at the brutality, noting that stabbings occur at least a couple of times a week. The frequency and severity of the violence have made MDC a particularly dangerous environment, even for seasoned inmates. The violence, combined with the poor living conditions, raises concerns about Diddy's safety. Given his high-profile status, some speculate that he may have been placed under special care or in protective custody. Fans and observers alike believe that prison officials may have taken extra precautions to ensure he is not targeted by other inmates. The theory is that the higher-ups at the facility wanted to prevent Diddy from being shanked or harmed, given the likelihood that other inmates might see him as a target due to his wealth and fame. Protective custody, in this case, is seen as a necessary measure to shield him from the violent environment that MDC has become infamous for. In conclusion, while Diddy's celebrity status may have garnered attention to his incarceration, the conditions he faces inside MDC are a stark reminder of the systemic issues within the U.S. prison system. The unsanitary conditions, lack of medical care, and violence are not unique to high-profile inmates like Diddy. They are a daily reality for countless individuals incarcerated in facilities across the country. The power outage of 2019 may have drawn national attention to the problem, but the underlying issues of neglect, mistreatment, and violence remain unresolved. As Diddy navigates his time in MDC, his case sheds light on the ongoing crisis within the prison system and the urgent need for reform.
Wondering if that's why they placed him suicide watch now, kind of what you were saying, protective coverage, because he is such a high-profile inmate. Do you think that could be part of it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, going from a life where you live in a mansion to going to sit in a jail facility is not something easy to deal with.
Some legal experts have expressed grave concerns about Diddy's safety if he is removed from special care and placed with the general prison population. Given his high-profile status, wealth, and public persona, Diddy could become a significant target for other inmates. His celebrity might incite jealousy or resentment, making him vulnerable to attacks, especially in a notoriously violent environment like the Metropolitan Detention Center (MDC). With reports of frequent stabbings and violent altercations inside the facility, the risks are even more pronounced. Inmates may attempt to harm him, either to gain notoriety within the prison or to exploit his fame for personal gain. This potential danger has led many to believe that protective custody or special care is essential for his survival in such a hostile environment. Additionally, some experts warn that prison officials could face legal repercussions if they fail to ensure Diddy's safety, particularly given the well-documented history of violence at MDC. Removing him from special care could elevate the threat level, exposing him to the same dangers that have harmed other inmates in the past. For these reasons, keeping Diddy in protective custody is seen by some as a critical precaution to safeguard his life.
If I was his attorney, I would want to make sure that he was being kept in a place where he's safe and not be used as some sort of way that some inmate may want to just move their street credibility, for lack of a better term, by just saying, yeah, I went after P. Diddy because, he wasn't supposed to be doing those things and all that. So it's a very difficult situation when someone that famous and well-known in this kind of case is put into general population.
Diddy's legal team has taken decisive action in response to the dire conditions at the Metropolitan Detention Center (MDC), which have become a serious concern for his safety. His attorneys filed a motion requesting the court to transfer him to a different facility in Essex County, New Jersey, arguing that MDC is not suitable for pretrial detention. In the motion, Diddy's lawyers pointed out that numerous courts within the district have previously recognized the unfit conditions at MDC. These concerns are not new, and the attorneys provided a chilling reminder of the facility's recent history just earlier this summer. An inmate was killed within the prison, adding to the tragic statistic that at least 4 inmates have died there in the past 3 years under questionable circumstances. Despite these alarming conditions, the decision to transfer Diddy out of MDC ultimately lies in the hands of the Bureau of Prisons. While Diddy's legal team fights for a safer environment, there is a growing fear about his well-being should he remain at MDC. The facility has become notorious for its unsafe and unsanitary conditions, and for a high-profile figure like Diddy, the stakes are even higher. His fame, wealth, and public persona make him a target, not just for violence but also for manipulation by other inmates. The attorney's concerns are valid, as MDC's reputation for violence and inmate deaths casts doubt on its ability to keep Diddy safe, especially in pretrial detention. However, the most unsettling aspect of Diddy's situation is the eerie similarity it has to the case of Jeffrey Epstein, a convicted sex offender who died under mysterious circumstances while in prison. Legal experts and the public alike have drawn comparisons between Diddy's case and Epstein's, given the questionable treatment of high-profile inmates and the risk of foul play. The parallels don't stop there. Like Epstein, Diddy has been closely associated with a female figure who has been accused of facilitating his alleged misconduct, Christina Korum. Christina Korum, Diddy's chief of staff at Combs Enterprises, has played a significant role in his life for years. She first joined Bad Boy Entertainment in 2013 and has since risen through the ranks to become one of Diddy's most trusted confidants. In 2020, she officially took on the role of chief of staff, and just a year later, Diddy publicly praised her on his social media. In a post on his Facebook account, he shared a picture of Korum, writing, "She's been my right hand for the last 8 years and has consistently proven to execute and get stuff done. Don't know how I'd function without her." At first glance, Korum seems to be the dedicated and loyal assistant who has stood by Diddy's side throughout his business ventures. However, this is where the comparisons to Epstein's case grow even more disturbing. In Epstein's notorious criminal empire, Ghislaine Maxwell was accused of being a key accomplice, helping him recruit and manipulate young women. Similarly, in a recent lawsuit brought by a man named Lil Rod, Korum is repeatedly mentioned as playing a questionable role in Diddy's alleged wrongdoing. In fact, Lil Rod refers to Korum as the Ghislaine Maxwell to Sean Combs' Jeffrey Epstein, making her involvement in Diddy's alleged misconduct a focal point of the lawsuit. According to Lil Rod, when Diddy's darker side first became apparent to him, he confided in Korum, hoping that she would help or intervene in some way. Shockingly, rather than assisting him or acknowledging his concerns, Korum reportedly brushed it off, telling Lil Rod that Diddy's actions were simply his way of expressing appreciation. This response from Korum raises serious questions about her role in Diddy's inner circle. Has she been enabling his alleged behavior much like Maxwell did with Epstein, or is she simply a loyal employee caught in a difficult position? The lawsuit's repeated mention of Korum -64 times in total suggests that her involvement goes far beyond a mere bystander. The comparison to Maxwell has sparked speculation, especially in light of the legal challenges Diddy now faces. As Diddy's case continues to unfold, the role of individuals like Korum may come under further scrutiny. The echoes of the Epstein case loom large over this situation, and many fear that history could repeat itself in some way. Diddy's legal troubles, combined with the dangerous environment of MDC and the potential involvement of a close confidant in his alleged misdeeds, make for a complex and unsettling scenario. In the end, whether or not Diddy is transferred to a safer facility remains uncertain. What is clear, however, is that his legal team is fighting not just for his freedom but for his survival in a system that has failed other high-profile inmates before him. The comparisons to Epstein and Maxwell only heighten the public's intrigue, leaving many to wonder if Diddy's case will follow a similar path of scandal, mystery, and potential tragedy. Appreciating his efforts, it seems like she was well aware of how Combs operated. Heck, she allowed it. What's more, according to Rod's lawsuit, Christina was in charge of procuring workers for Combs and would instruct her staff to lace champagne. Beyond tequila and Shiro liquor bottles with blank and other illegal substances, she also required all employees from the butler. The document states that the defendant threatened and persuaded women and others around him to fulfill his desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. Combs relied on the employees' resources and influence of the multifaceted business empire that he led and controlled to do this. This resulted in a criminal enterprise whose members and associates engaged in and attempted to engage in, among other crimes, trafficking, forcible labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. Unfortunately for Christina, she is not being spared this time either. Diddy is the only person mentioned. Christina Korum, the insider, believes Christina may be cooperative, at least if she's smart, and you know what? She might just go that route, since sources told the Daily Mail that at least 5 executives close to Coleman's have been advised to explore their options, because they will not be protected by the shareholders if any allegations emerge. Of course, one source involved in the legal proceedings spoke to the New York Post and revealed that if anyone is a gatekeeper, Christina will know everything. The source also said the feds have gotten evidence from a lot of sources, including recordings, text messages, and name texts from Christina Korum, so it's highly likely that the feds will reach out to her. This is not where the similarities between Diddy and Epstein's cases end, aside from the fact that both have manipulators. Chief Epstein and Diddy's cases are similar if you don't pay attention to the fine print. Another person said, "I'm sure she's taking a deal. I think this is just the tip of an iceberg." Naturally, the allegations are different in each case, but consider this: in both instances, you have these strong guys who seem to be idolized in the business, and they both had relationships with well-known figures. Because he was a financial manager, Epstein was able to secure his bag. And Diddy secured his position.
Prosecutors in both of these cases have said that the defendants were obsessed, and that they used their wealth and their power, resources, network to satisfy these desires, and more specifically for Combs.
What's even more disturbing are the stark similarities between the Epstein case and the allegations surrounding Diddy. Epstein was notoriously running a despicable operation behind the scenes, catering to the whims of wealthy elites and orchestrating an elaborate network that facilitated unspeakable acts. His secretive ring, aimed at satisfying the desires of high-powered individuals, was one of the darkest revelations in modern criminal history. In a similar vein, Diddy is now facing accusations of organizing his own twisted operations, although of a different nature. Allegedly, he had an entire organization of individuals at his disposal, coordinating private freak-off sessions, wild and debauched parties involving disturbing behaviors. The scope of the investigations into both men further deepens the parallels between their cases. In each instance, authorities have been forced to dig deeply into the defendants' pasts, unearthing troubling patterns and behaviors that spanned years, if not decades. Just as Epstein's crimes were brought to light after decades of evading justice, Diddy's past is now being scrutinized as investigators uncover allegations that paint a deeply troubling picture of his private life. What makes both cases so chilling is not just the individual's actions, but the far-reaching influence they had and the number of people involved in covering up or enabling their behavior. These cases reflect not only on the men accused, but also on the powerful circles they operated within, raising questions about how such behavior was allowed to continue unchecked for so long. While Epstein catered to the desires of elites, Diddy's alleged behavior points to a pattern of exploiting his influence and resources for personal gratification, mirroring the dark dynamics of power, wealth, and control.
And I think it's an interesting component of these federal cases is that Epstein was being prosecuted for conduct from the early 2000s, Combs being prosecuted for conduct all the way back from 2008.
The twisted thing is that both of these individuals have a track record of intimidating witnesses. Diddy is well known for utilizing his connections to intimidate witnesses, so everyone is aware of the skeletons in his closet. Victims and witnesses more recently, Lil Rod disclosed in an interview with Rolling Stone that he was forced to relocate to the United States due to threats against his life. The music producer stated that Diddy employs numerous people in various capacities, and that his connections have made him extremely connected, which has caused him to feel anxious when traveling and staying in hotels. When I last landed in Los Angeles, I knew he had connections there, so I asked if there was a way to have my name removed. I was uncomfortable, paranoid, and afraid when I got off the plane, but I told myself that I couldn't continue living this way. I have 3 therapists, and there's Epstein.
Intimidation. And Jeffrey Epstein, there were 2 sisters, the Farmer sisters, that were the first to report the allegations against Jeffrey Epstein. And they reported to a reporter for Vanity Fair magazine that famously did not run with that story. And then everything happened in Florida, and it turned out all essentially to be true. And there's a lot of finger pointing back and forth between the reporter and the editors at Vanity Fair. But there have been allegations of threats and intimidation against Vanity Fair magazine from, powerful people in the orbit of Jeffrey Epstein.
You learn this from a Homeland Security agent who wished to remain nameless and participated in the raids on his mansions. Diddy is just as evil as Epstein. In an interview with the New York Post, the agent stated that Diddy has chambers at his house where the FBI discovered toys, bondage gear, concealed cameras, and underwear, but the most unsettling thing was the cameras. The agent said that if you were at any of the 6 parties, you were being filmed from every angle, even ones you wouldn't have known about. In addition, Diddy was able to watch the activity remotely on his phone and didn't miss any action because of the cameras. TV, in another part of the house, he didn't have to be in the room when the S was happening, although he frequently was. The agent also said, in my opinion, he's as bad as Jeffrey Epstein. These women are young, either barely legal or barely illegal. Have evidence that these women didn't feel like they were free to go, and there's video evidence that some of the girls are clearly. The similarities between Diddy's and Epstein's cases leave fans wondering if Diddy learned the trade from Epstein and whether the two men ever collaborated. Regardless of the answers to these questions, it's time Diddy faced the music that most people believe, so at least they couldn't care less about his new hell. Of course, Diddy never deleted the recordings and instead used them to force his victims into obedience, and get this, Epstein operated the same way. What do you think of the situation? Is Diddy really capable of doing the unthinkable? Should the authorities remain on high alert to avoid another Epstein situation? One person commented, he finally is realizing that money can't get you everything. I feel zero empathy for this monster. Another person commented, Sean Combs will mysteriously leave MDC horizontally. If he spills certain names, please let us know by leaving a comment below.